Hello and welcome to the second session today in Optimize. If you were here yesterday, I welcome you back. My name is Micheál McGrath. I'm the VP of Marketing here at Visible Thread, and I'm delighted to welcome you to another Optimize session. It's been a whirlwind so far. We've talked about pretty much every topic underneath the sun, but we're here again to talk about bid writing and proposal writing, and we're very excited about today's session. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we start. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A. We'd love to take as many questions as possible. Proposal writing is always a top topic. And we also have a attendee chat on the screen. If you want to kind of share LinkedIn profiles or let us know where you're coming from, I'd be delighted kind of just to see the engagement in the chat. I'm based here in Cork in Ireland. And I'm very happy to welcome you all in. Leonie today has a lot of kind of polls and interactive pieces in her presentation, which is great. So we're going to get a real feel for the room. When she does show the polls, you can actually click the screen or click the slides. You'll be able to select the options on the slides, and then we'll be able to show the answers afterwards. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Leonie Thomas. Leonie is an expert bid writer based in the UK. She's over 20 years of experience working in multiple organizations, often seen doing masterclasses on LinkedIn and with different organizations. We're absolutely delighted to have Leonie with us today and to share her expertise. And I know this is a great topic, so I'm not going to wait any longer. Leonie, how are you? And welcome.
Thank you very much, Micheál. I'll get started then, if I may. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So good afternoon, everybody. I'm Leonie Thomas. I'm speaking today from Manchester in the UK. So if it's a foreign accent to you, I do apologise. I am a senior bid writer and I have over 20 years experience now in work winning. My experience is mainly in construction and infrastructure sectors, but we're looking today at something much broader than that. I'm also the founder of the APMP UK's bid writing focus group. With that, I'm hoping to bring together writers across the UK and further afield to share best practice and shape the future of our profession. I'm thrilled to be here today with you all to talk about something that I'm genuinely passionate about. I've been thinking a lot about how the bid writer role is evolving, and I'm going to be talking today about what we can do as bid writers and bid professionals, not just to keep up with progression, but to actively lead the way. So over the next 30 minutes or so, we're going to explore how technology, people skills, and strategy are shaping what it means to be a bid writer today. I'm going to share some lessons from my own career, as well as some practical tips that you can take away and use immediately. And also we're going to have a glimpse into what I think our profession is going to look like in 5 years' time. So let's kick things off with a poll. Where do you think the bid writer role is going to sit in 5 years' time? I'll give you a little bit of time to consider the results. Where's my, Micheál, where's my first poll gone? Thank you.
Yeah, so it should be on screen there, and people can click the slides.
Yeah, where do you think the bid writer role is going to sit in 5 years' time? It'd be great to understand what everybody is thinking about this.
So 2 seconds.
Where do you think we're going to be, and what do you think we're going to be doing?
So we'll just wait for a few more to come in. You should be able to just click on the slides directly.
Yeah.
There you go. There's a few coming in there now.
That's great. Where do you think the bid writer role is going to sit in 5 years' time? Do you think we're going to be a key partner shaping win strategy alongside the bid manager, bid director, other senior people? Do you think we're going to still be mainly focused on writing and coordination? Are we largely going to be automated by technology? So is the bid writer role not actually going to exist in its current form or at all? Or are we going to be doing something completely new that we haven't yet defined? I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on this.
Okay, you got a good consensus there, Leonie.
Yeah, great. Okay, so we think the bid writer, as a cohort of people that's in the room today with us, The majority think that we're going to be key strategic partners shaping win strategy. There's 10% of us thinking that we're going to be still focused mainly on writing and coordination. Around a third, so 33% of us largely think that we will be automated by technology. Whether or not the bid writer role exists or not, we maybe don't know just yet. And 10% of us think that we are going to be doing something else or something completely new that we're not yet able to define, whether we don't have visibility of it or whatever else. So what we're going to cover today, I know it looks like quite a lot that we're going to get through, but I promise you I can speak quite quickly. Let me give you a quick overview of everything that we're going to touch on today. The session is all about really exploring how the bid writer role is evolving and how we as bid writers can position ourselves, not just to keep up with change, but to actively lead it. I think that's really key and important. We're going to start with why this conversation matters now. What's the pace of change in the bid writing profession, how it's being driven by AI, automation, and also shifting client expectations. Then we're going to look at how we've moved from being a support role to becoming strategic partners, how bid writers are actively influencing win strategy and storytelling from the very start of the bid process. We're also going to explore what great writers do differently, how they bring calm, clarity, persuasion into very complex, high-pressure environments. And from there, we're going to focus on what the mastering of bidcraft, the writing of bidcraft is itself. So how do we master the craft of writing? How do we write faster? How do we edit better? How can we use AI as a supportive tool rather than a replacement for us and the human? We'll also look at how working with subject matter experts can be done efficiently. How can we get the best from our technical contributors and how we can turn their knowledge into compelling narratives that score highly. We're then going to move into how to write faster and smarter. We'll give you some tips on process, structure, and content reuse that will make your life a lot easier and your outputs much stronger. After that, I'm going to share some thoughts on what I think the future skill set for bid writers is going to look like. That blend of strategic thinking, people skills, and AI awareness that I think is going to define our success over the next few years. We're going to finish with some reflections on managing your own career as bid writers, how to take ownership of your development, how to build some resilience, and how to create a sustainable, rewarding path as a bid professional and bid writer. Finally, I'm going to share some takeaways before opening up to you for Q&A. I really want to hear your perspectives on how you see bid writing changing. So let's jump in and let's get started on why we think this conversation matters now. So if you've worked in bids for any amount of time, and like I'm kind of past my 2-decade mark now, you will have definitely noticed how much faster and how much more complex bid submissions are becoming. There's no doubt about it. We are expected as bid writers to produce very high quality, very strategic content in a very limited amount of time, perhaps with fewer resources, big expectations on us. And now AI, automation, other forms of tech, they're adding another layer of change. Some of it helpful, some of it maybe not so helpful. But I do think there is some good news. I don't think that AI is going to replace the bid writer. I don't believe so anyway. I think it's going to really, really elevate what bid writing can do, should do, is able to do in the future. The way that we're going to be able to deliver and create value for bid teams is going to increase exponentially for bid writers. And I very much want you to be at the forefront of it. That change is going to, AI is definitely going to take care of the repetitive, time-consuming, very low-value tasks, maybe like formatting, very basic drafting, and it's going to free us up as bid writers to do all the things that humans do best and can only do, such as think critically, tell the really compelling stories, bring clarity, and bring that emotional connection to our technical content. It's really exciting. I always say that AI may be able to write the words, but I do not believe it's able to tell the story. That is very much the bid writer's job, and it's very much where it will stay. So we'll have another quick poll now. What do you think is going to add most value to bids in the future? Again, I'll give you a couple of seconds to respond, and we will have a look at the results. So what do you think over the next couple of years is going to add the most value to bids? Is it human creativity and storytelling? Is it AI generated insights and analysis? Is it that collaboration between humans and AI? Or is it data driven evidence and metrics? Out of those four, do we think there's a clear one that is going to add the most value? I'll just give you a couple of minutes to respond. A couple of seconds, sorry. What is going to add the most value to bids in the future? What do you think that's going to be? Is it still going to be the human element of it? Is it going to be the AI generated insights and analysis? Is it going to be some sort of collaboration between humans and AI? Or is it going to be something totally data driven? Okay. So interestingly, the majority of us here today think that, well, at least half think that what's going to add the most value in the future, you can see there, it's going to be some sort of collaboration between humans and AI. I'm probably inclined to agree. 20% of us think that human creativity and storytelling is going to add the most value. For me, that would come a close second, if not the first. For me, the two are equally important. 4% think it's going to be AI generated insights and analysis. And 26% of us think that data driven evidence and metrics is going to add the most value in the future. That's interesting. So for many years, I think that bid writers, bid people in general probably, were very much seen as the support role. We're the people that made things look pretty, we tidied up documents, we made things sound professional. We did maybe a bit of a grammar check, did a bit of editing, did a bit of formatting. Today, though, I think the best bid writers are actually strategic communicators. We help to shape the message, we're facilitating collaboration, and we're making sure that every single word in those submissions links back directly to win themes and client drivers. No doubt about it. When I think back to the very early part of my career, so like in the early to mid noughties now, I remember being brought in, I was often brought in far too late, minimal thinking about overall message that we wanted to communicate. You know, those things weren't really considered. I think it's really critical for bid writers to be involved in both storyboarding and win theme development. It's where messaging is developed. It is where it's a key part, I think, of what I call a response governance. So if you're agreeing and deciding up front what those answers require, what the question's asking, you're able to develop as a team and get complete alignment and buy-in to what that structure looks like. Let's take a moment just to reflect. What's one thing that you're maybe doing now that you weren't doing 5 years ago, 10 years ago in your role? If you're a bid person that period, it might be storyboarding, it might be interviewing, it might be leading SMEs through response development. More latterly, it might be using AI tools far more. Whatever change it is, you can see clearly that that's evolution in action. And I think it's really clear proof that our role as bid writers is changing and, you know, hopefully changing for the better. So when you look at the very best bid writers, I think a few qualities clearly stand out. They can take something very, very complex, whether it's a technical process, whether it's a methodology, a compliance requirement, something like that, and they can make it sound very clear, persuasive, and human. They're not just describing what's being done, they're telling a story about how it's done, why it matters to the particular client that you're pitching to. The best bid writers also bring real empathy into their writing. They're thinking about the evaluator who's reading under pressure with loads of bids to get through. Great bid writers also stay calm under pressure. They're able to stay very calm when everyone else is stressed. They're the steady hand on the wheel. They're focused, they're positive, they're clear. They're able to lead SMEs who are, often time pressed. They're often able to lead them through a process that they don't particularly enjoy, and that's great. Personally, I've learned to manage stress and pressure within the team by working closely with SMEs. I think that's one of the real keys to being a great bid writer. You've got to meet your SMEs at least halfway by being as proactive as possible. So how can I do that? Sometimes it's developing very, very rough drafts with some of their sketchy ideas, highlighting where I think the gaps are, working with them to close them out, making sure that they know that this is a collaboration. It's not me just handing the work over to them. Sometimes it's being flexible with meeting times. It might be early in the day, it might be over lunch, it might be later on, being flexible to meet their diary. Sometimes it's capturing information during a really informal conversation, just to prevent a more formal meeting needing to be scheduled. It's being proactive, it's having ideas, and it's being willing to meet SMEs at least halfway. I also write with empathy. I'm thinking about how busy evaluators are when they're reading our responses, and I don't want them to feel kind of, a bit tired of reading our responses. I want our writing to be fresh, compelling, pacey to read. So the evaluators are, they're compelled and impelled to read stuff. They're taken through responses and they feel excited about it. Also remember that your responses aren't being marked for grammar, they're really being marked for impact. Now that doesn't mean that grammar's not important, but it's incumbent on you as bid writers to develop a style of writing that enables the reader to quickly scan the document. So think about how you might do that. Great use of headings, maybe using bullet points, shorter sentences, fewer colons and semicolons. How can you develop a style of writing that's really easy to read? We're going to do another quick poll now. Do you have any qualities? What are the qualities that you think describe great bid writers in your opinion? What qualities best describe a great bid writer? What do we think? Do you think somebody with great clarity and structure? Do we think somebody who's calm under pressure? Is it somebody that's empathetic and collaborative? Or is it a strategic thinker? What qualities make great bid writers? I'm very intrigued by this. Can all four qualities be in one person? I'm sure they can. That's really interesting to me. That is really interesting. So nearly 50% of us think that clarity and structure are the best qualities for a great bid writer to have. I think that's fascinating. 11% think calmness under pressure. 22% think empathy and collaboration. And nearly 20%, so 17.8 there, think strategic thinking. Very interesting. How are you going to master the craft of bid writing? I think that good writing is going to matter more than ever, both now and in the future, even with AI. Being able to identify great writing and really appreciate it, I think, is going to be a really critical skill, because it's not all going to be about just pushing a button and expecting great content to come out. You're going to have to be able to identify what great content looks like. So for me, if I was doing a masterclass on how to become a really great writer or a better writer, the first thing I would say to you is write fast, edit slow. And what I really mean by that is get that first draft down quickly without overthinking it. Perfection is always the enemy of either kind of finished or good or perfection or progress or whatever saying that you say. Trying to get it absolutely right and editing it as you're trying to write, I think is going to really slow you down. The way I would approach this is to have an outline structure with really specific headings and bullet points, the subheadings, write what I can, identify the gaps quickly, go and speak to somebody about it. Once it's then on the page, then is the time to refine, restructure, polish, collaborate with other people, but get that first draft down quickly. Of course, in an AI age, it might be that we're using AI more and more and more, but I would recommend that you do not lose the ability to structure your responses. You will need to know what great looks like in terms of structure. The structure is what enables the storytelling and the flow to make sense. And you need to know what's great flow, what isn't telling a cogent story. Once you've done that, read widely. That's my second tip for you as writers. Don't just read other bits. Who wants to do that? But have a wide diet of reading material, whether it's articles, essays, fiction, blog posts, newspapers, books, whatever it is. The more language you're going to read, the better you'll instinctively write. Focus then on structure and rhythm. How does one idea lead to the next? How do they flow together? How are those ideas connected? How do the sentences flow? Bid evaluators and readers and reviewers in general should not have to fight to really understand your meaning. So write really simply, write to the point, and make sure that every thought and idea that you're communicating in your responses is going to land with clarity for the reader. Use AI as your writing partner. It's not your ghostwriter, and it's not doing the work for you. It's there to be your thinking partner, your writing partner, but don't have it doing all the work. Use it maybe to generate some ideas on phrasing, check some clarity, summarize background material, but make sure that your writing is still within a human voice. It's got human judgment, and the persuasion are still coming from you. Don't be inclined to outsource the really key skills here, I would say. So how confident do you feel in your writing craft just now? Whatever your answer, remember that great writing really isn't innate. It's really built through consistency, curiosity. And I've seen many writing styles, and I've seen approaches change a lot over the past 20 years. So I know that evolution in this particular area is definitely a real thing. The next evolution I'm sort of wondering about now is how AI scoring is going to impact our writing style. So if anyone's got any opinions or insights on this, I'd love to hear about them. I wonder about whether writing's going to become very just very bulleted, very to the point. I don't know. I've got no idea. But if we're using AI to score bids more and more, like, there will be a subsequent impact on how we write responses. And I'd be very interested to hear any thoughts about that. So how do we work with SMEs? Behind every great bid writer, there are multiple SMEs, I can promise you. Bid writers cannot work well without them. And working alongside these brilliant experts is really what makes bid writing so interesting, but also challenging. I think that developing great relationships with SMEs and working well with them is a huge area for potential growth for many bid writers. Many SMEs will admit that bid writing and communicating expertise for bid responses is not really in their comfort zone, but our job is to make that easy for them. And this is my approach to working with SMEs. Before I meet an SME, I'm always going to prepare, always. I never go into a meeting with an expert without knowing exactly what I want to speak to them about and why I want to speak to them. So I'm going to read the material. I'm going to identify the gaps that I want to speak to them about. I'm going to think about the story that we're perhaps going to tell. I think about the information that I need from them and the questions that I will ask in order to gather it. I'm not going in there with no thought or prep. That preparation is going to build confidence both in you, and it'll give them confidence as well about why you're asking the questions that you are. When I set the meeting up, I'm going to set the scene for them. I'm going to give them a bit of a brief about what I need, how I'll achieve it. Am I going to do an interview? Is it going to be a conversation? Will it be some other method that I've not, I need to talk to them about? And we'll sit down for our meeting. I'm going to restate the aims. I'm going to say something like, today I'm going to gather some information relating to da-da-da, or I want to check the evidence on this. And, we're just going to have a chat, and I'll ask you some questions. I'm just really clear about what I need and how I'm going to get it. When I interview SMEs, I'm listening for intent. I'm not just listening to the words. So if they say something like, we've got an excellent track record in safety, I'm going to say to them, can you give me an example? So what is it that you do differently to everybody else? I'm going to ask for statistics. I'm going to ask for numbers. How do we quantify what we're saying? Those stats, those sorts of quantifications is real bid gold, and it's really great evidence to put into responses. And remember that rapport and trust and building these with SMEs is really, really important. Build open relationships that's going to enable them to open up and give you their best material. It's really key that these relationships are open, friendly, based on great rapport, because they will give you better information, and you will find the whole bid response journey less of a challenge. Make friends with your SMEs. Before I wrap the meeting up with SME, I'm going to confirm the next steps with them. I'm going to, that might be sending a draft, or it might be scheduling a follow-up. And then I'm going to say, well, I might need this from you, or I might need that. Just make sure they're aware of what the forward sort of progression is going to be, so there's no surprises. So let's talk about working a little bit more efficiently. I definitely start with a storyboard. Before you write a single word, sketch out all of your structure alongside your SMEs, alongside any other contributors, with your question owner. What's the question really asking? What are the win themes? What do we need to talk about? What story are we telling? All of these things should form part of your storyboarding meeting that you're having a conversation about. I do think it's a critical part of response governance. As I said before, it will save hours later, and it will also provide clarity later down the line when you need to check on what the intent for a particular response was. That early thinking can often get lost in the midst of time as you're kind of developing your ideas throughout the progress. Having it crystallized in a storyboard is super important, I think. Think about where you can automate. Can you use tools? Are there templates that you can use for formatting, consistency? What is going to remove that low value admin work that, more and more you can start to leave behind? Build that content library of reusable materials, case studies, project summaries, CVs, evidence. Try not to be developing that sort of content while you're working on a live bid. It's exhausting, and you're always behind then, because you're never on it. In order to work with AI effectively now, we need to be thinking as bid writers about how can we make sure that AI has always got amazing content to really to write with and to work with itself. I see case studies, standard text, evidence, CVs being a real focus for us bid writers over the next few years as AI starts to build up our time, really. Now, it's absolutely right to say we should have always been writing that stuff all along, but often we've not had the time because there's been so many live bids to do, or we've been writing that kind of content while we've been doing live bids. Is there a way to shift that focus from live bids to doing more kind of upfront content writing? I don't know. It's probably one of the challenges, but I do see that being a real demand over the next few years. Where you save time, let's use it creatively. Let's focus on making our stories tighter, our logic better, our messaging more persuasive. We're able now, we're in a position now to really focus high value time into creating amazing bids, and I think it's really exciting. Consider overall where you might lose the most time during the working day. Is it chasing SMEs? Is it editing inputs? I find myself having to schedule loads of meetings. I lose loads of time doing that. I'm looking at different ways to make that more automated. So if you reflect and consider where you're losing time, how can you improve your process around those particular activities? Because actually that's where the next efficiency gain is for you. So the future skill set, where are we going? What's the future bid writer going to look like? Well, first of all, I do think they're strategic thinkers for sure. I think they're going to be people that see far beyond the question. They're going to understand the evaluator's priorities, and they're going to be able to connect that technical detail to business value. So really, they're going to have parity with, you know, any business development people, bid lead, bid manager. You're going to be working as a really able, competent team. And the bid writer is going to be communicating that really strategic messaging that we want to get on the page. Secondly, the bid writer of the future, they're going to be a facilitator, they're going to be an influencer. They aren't just going to be writers. And I foresee a kind of title change in the offing. So I think in 5 years, we're not going to be called bid writers. I think we're going to be called something else, whether it's bid communicators or something else. I don't know what, but I just see a title change. These people are going to guide discussions. They're going to challenge assumptions. They're going to help teams express the very best version of their solution. So they're not there just to kind of sit and type and maybe edit and, you know, look for typos and stuff. They're going to be doing something that's far more value add. Thirdly, I think they're going to be coaches and interviewers. They're going to draw insights out from people. They're going to be able to spot the gaps. They're going to build a coherent message from very, very scattered inputs. Now, a lot of people are already doing that, but I think it's going to become more formalized. And I think it's going to be more widely understood. Fourthly, I think they're going to understand AI ethically, how to use AI responsibly, how to question its output, how to avoid bias or over-reliance. These are all issues that are going to become very, very prevalent over the next few years. And we need to think as bid writers about how we upskill bid writers to be able to identify and work with them and, you know, like respond to the risk, but also how we can help other people as well. Finally, the bid writer of the future is definitely going to have resilience. They're going to have curiosity. And these are two human skills that AI definitely cannot replace. The ability to stay calm under pressure and to drive to keep learning even when things are constantly changing are going to be critical for the future. So just take a moment to think now, which of these skills do you most want to strengthen, like for the rest of this year into next year? Like for your career, which of those skills do you think are really going to be important for you? There's no poll on that particularly, but just something for you to think about. So as a bid writer, how do you manage your career? If the role is evolving, and I definitely think it is, so should the way that we grow within it. First and foremost, I think every bid writer is very different. There's no two bid writers I know that are exactly the same. I think there's many paths, there's many opportunities, and there's many, many ways of doing the role. So I think that's the first thing, unique. We're all unique. Secondly, I would recommend that you definitely own your own development. You set the goals for yourself and don't wait for other people to build that pathway for you. Go out, identify the skills you want to develop, get the feedback, build a plan to get to where you need to be. Thirdly, find mentors and peers who understand what it is that you want to do. Now, that might be somebody within the business that you work for, or it might be somebody else. It might be a mentor outside, somebody professional that you know. Communities like the APMP UK bid writing focus group that we've set up in Britain, they are going to be brilliant for that. It's going to be a place where bid writers can connect, learn, share, raise standards across the profession, and really start to drive forward the discipline. Really, it is still a discipline that's maturing. It's still relatively new comparative to other things, and so we want to kind of take it forward and drive it forward. I'd also recommend that you share what you know. The more visible we make bid writing, the more it will be valued. So publish an article, mentor a junior, volunteer for something. It's all going to count. It will all count. And finally, definitely don't forget well-being. It's such a challenge, I think, within bid writing. Bid writing can be relentless, but it's okay to rest. It's okay to say no. It's also okay to set boundaries. It's definitely okay to recharge between bids. It's really critical. Career sustainability matters as much as your success bid to bid. So combining skills, strategy, self-care, we're not just building careers, we are building longevity. And, you know, I do really think that that's important. So let's just recap what we talked about today. We've got through a lot. The role of the bid writer, in my opinion, is not diminishing. I think it's actually expanding. That there's lots of opportunity, especially brought by AI and automation, to free up some of the space for us to focus on parts that really, really matter and create a lot of value for the bids and the teams that we work with. Whether it's strategy, communication, people, these things really, really matter. It's where I would recommend that you spend a lot of time focusing over the next couple of years. I think that writing and interpersonal skills are always going to be the bid writer's foundation. But I would say to supplement these with curiosity, resilience, adaptability. These are the traits that are also going to carry you further forward into the 21st century. And I definitely think as well that the future is those who choose to shape it, not wait for the change to come. So drive that change. I just want you to reflect before we go into the Q&A. If there's one thing you thought about today or one thing you've learned, what is it that you're going to do differently after today? You don't have to tell me, just something for you to think about. It might be challenging your team earlier. It might be experimenting more with AI prompts. It might be scheduling more time for your own personal to implement it and, you know, drive your career 1 step, 2 steps, 10 steps forward. You don't know. We have a final poll before we go into Q&A, and that is, what do we think the biggest opportunities are for bid writers in the next decade? So in the next 10 years, what do we think the biggest opportunity is for bid writers? Is it using AI to enhance content quality? Is it leading story and messaging strategy? Is it building stronger SME partnerships? Or is it redefining our professional identity? I think all those are important, but what do you think is the most important? Just give you a couple of seconds to respond. What do you think the biggest opportunity for bid writers is over the next decade? Let's give you a couple more seconds. Okay, so 40% think that it's going to be redefining our professional identity. That's really exciting. We then have 32% leading story messaging strategy, using AI to enhance content quality only at 20%, and then building stronger SME partnerships at 7.5. Yep, interesting. I'm going to spend some time now for Q&A. Yeah, about 10, 15 minutes or so.
Fabulous. Well, Leonie, thank you so much for that. That was excellent. There was a ton of good learnings in that. And I think some of the polls in particular, it's very interesting to kind of see the results come back in from the audience and the current opinion on different statistics. There's a Q&A box on screen. Feel free to drop in any questions in there. And also there is a survey on screen as well. We'd love to have your feedback on the session. So if you'd like to fill that out as well, that'd be fabulous. Opening question from Neil Leonie around mirroring the structure of an RFP. in your response. So to actually map your response based on the structure of the RP that actually came out. Is that a good tactic, or do you feel like, is that something that you've done before?
Yeah, that is generally how I would do it, in fairness, Neil. So the temptation sometimes can be the way the RFP is asked maybe doesn't tell a good story, or the response might tell the story out of sequence.
Sure.
I suppose my preference would always be, let's give them the information in the order that they asked. There might be reasons that they have asked it in that way, and we're not aware of that, even if it does ruin our storytelling, which I know we don't like.
Very good. Yeah, no, totally.
Neil, does that answer your question?
I'll let him respond. Just moving on from that, Leonie, strategy, this is from Mary, strategies for not having SMEs add sub last minute, even when it's internal deadline. So strategies for helping your SMEs being a little bit more proactive, avoiding kind of last minute changes.
So I try and be as proactive as possible. I understand the frustration, Mary, I genuinely do. So when you've given them deadlines, like I'm working with them days and days in advance, so I'm always checking in with them and finding out where they are. I'm understanding what it is that I can do to help them meet the deadline. I'm asking in advance, are there any obstacles to them meeting the deadline, so that I'm aware in advance of things not being able to happen at the agreed time. I always say that I really dislike surprises unless they come with a bow on or in a Chanel bag. That kind of surprise with an SME not meeting a deadline is not my kind of surprise. So I'm proactive and I'm building relationships with them all the time. And also, if people like you, like, they're less likely to let you down, aren't they? If they don't really care about you or they don't know you, they're maybe not going to be that bothered about not meeting your deadline. Relationships with SMEs are really, really key.
And is that because there's quite a number of kind of threads to SME relationships in your presentation. Is that the number one? That's the problem that you see out there that people come to you with?
It's what I would describe as a top 3 frustration, if not the top 1 frustration. But I see a lot of discourse and dialogue around it on LinkedIn, where the SME is very much getting blamed. And I've been increasingly wondering how we can turn that around as bid writers. How can we work with them to minimize the stress and frustration and pressure that they feel? And how can we work with them in a more proactive and empathetic way? So rather than saying, you've not met my deadline, how can we help them meet the deadline? Can we agree it together? What steps do we need to take together to get there? Are there any challenges towards, about reaching that on time? How can we mitigate those together? And I never let anyone go dark either. So I'm keeping in constant touch with people. Where are you up to? What do you need from me? Should we have a look at the storyboard? Should we I also take like a lead in writing stuff. So I suppose I don't expect a lot of my SMEs to really write. Like, I do a lot of the writing for them, as long as they're open to having conversations with me about getting the right content on the page. Yeah.
This might be a little bit controversial, Leonie, but like when I
go on, I love controversy. Go on.
Yeah. when I hear you define the role of a bid writer, and then you see 40% of the audience say the future bid writers is redefining the role. Is it the job title or the job description out of date? Like, in terms of what you like, is that actually holding people back? Yeah.
Yeah, both. I think both are out of date. Bid writing is maybe, I don't think bid writing has ever been a great title, if I'm quite honest with you, because I think it infers we write all the bid, and actually we don't. We have to get a lot of SME input. We cannot write without the SME input. So I think that's been the first misnomer. And I think it's really, it doesn't identify a lot of the very nuanced skills that we have. So being able to lead people through a process that they don't want to do, writing, maybe sometimes graphics, maybe sometimes process management, being able to storyboard, being able to collaboratively work with people, being able to work under, severe pressure sometimes. I think that the role understanding is out of date, and I think that the role title is out of date. Yeah. And I think both are going to be subject to quite significant change over the next 5-10 years.
Yeah, and I think like advancement in AI, the amount of collaboration that I see in organizations between the bid writer and the SMEs, and that being kind of a pain point, is only going to push that further and further down the line. I see loads of questions regarding kind of SMEs. Do you have any examples, Leonie, where poor bid management stands in the way of a bid writer to being able to work effectively?
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, no doubt. I always say that great bid managers are actually a bid writer's best friend. If they're focusing on managing the process, creating that framework for everyone to work really effectively, it enables a bid writer to really focus on the writing. And that actually is the dream setup. It's a dream to work in circumstances like that. Yeah. Great processes is critical to great writing. Great process.
Awesome. And actually, in terms of kind of measurement, Nicola has a great question. For a bid writer specifically, do you have a way of measuring success or performance? Bid win rates are not a good measure, as there's so much out of their control, pricing, solution, etc. But do you have a suggestion, Leonie, on how measurement should happen for a bid writer?
Yeah, I wrote a blog post about this actually earlier this year. I will share that with you.
Please
Nick.
do.
Yeah. I suggest a whole bunch of different metrics because you're right. Like the win-lose score isn't necessarily that effective. Things that I look at are like how quickly were you able to get to first draft, pink draft, red draft? Were you late? What was your scoring like? And obviously there's other factors to take on board as well. So do you have the right credentials in a particular question area if it's scored quite poorly? Like those sorts of things. But I'll share that with you. I can share that with other people as well if they want to have a look at that. Just connect with me on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. And Leonie, if you share it with us, we'll put it in the kind of the aftermath of the event. We'll put it that way.
The aftermath.
That'd be great. Yeah.
The aftermath.
Which is soon going to come. It feels like that at the moment. There's so much going on. So that's that one. Then more about SMEs. How do you combat majority of SMEs providing AI generated content? Do you experience that much? Do you experience kind of AI generated content coming at you from an SMB perspective, like generated lists and?
So this is interesting, isn't it? I have not experienced that just yet, but I'm sure it's coming down the track at me. The way that how would I be getting around that? I would be sitting down and doing a storyboard. I would probably, I try and take away any kind of writing from my SME, but obviously it depends from person to person, sector to sector, bid to bid. Like we're all going to have different approaches, aren't we? I would be looking to try and reduce any opportunity for them to be tempted by AI, for them to do that, because it's not beneficial. And I suppose that's the weakness of AI, really. How can you work with your SME to kind of get to that first draft more quickly? That's the question I'd be thinking about, Heather. how can you storyboard effectively? How can you work with text and copy that you might already have, so that you can create that first draft more quickly, and they're then not tasked with coming up with a first draft. I think that's part of the problem, because SMEs, by their nature, they're either busy or they're not particularly writers, so they're going to look for the easiest option, aren't they? Which these days is to go to Chat GPT and say, give me an answer on this.
It's very
Does
true.
that answer your question, Heather? Sorry, Michal.
No, you're absolutely fine. There's some great conversation, loads of questions coming in. I'm just trying to keep them on track. Definitely a note towards, how about calling ourselves bid engineers? What would be your feelings on that, Leonie?
Well, I suppose I come from a very engineering sector, so the word engineer wouldn't be desirable. I also don't think it's very reflective of what we're actually doing. We're communicating, we're using people skills in a very deft way. It's very, very nuanced. That's why people think it's a dark art, because they can't always put their finger on exactly what we're doing. Bid engineer. No, I think it's going to be a softer, more strategic title somehow.
Yeah, and I think bid engineer, it could be a little bit of a wave of kind of prompt engineering as well, and AI elements. I see a lot of that across different industries, of the word engineer appearing, because you might be doing a little bit more technical prompting. And is that more of a fad, or a little bit riding the wave of AI a little bit too much? But it's interesting for sure. There's a lot of questions and about like formatting, and I saw it earlier in the chat as well. From Dawn, Leonie, do evaluators prefer more narrative or bullet point type responses?
So I think I think it's a really interesting question. Like maybe 10 years ago, I was doing a lot of bulleted lists, and then more latterly, I've been writing more narrative. But I think maybe if we're doing more AI scoring, or AI scoring more, we might go back to bulleted lists. So we're in such a state of flux, I think, at the moment. I think at the moment, as long as your responses are compelling and they're a joy to read, and I measure that by, like, do they sing off the page, or are they a real sort of struggle? Like, I would sort of stick to that approach at the moment, but I think we all need to keep our eyes and ears open for anecdotal evidence of how AI scoring is impacting how we write responses. I think that'll be quite an interesting development next year.
Okay, awesome. A good question here from Augustine. What strategies do you use to consolidate extensive RFP requirements, spanning 10 pages, into concise, compliant response, limited to, say, 5 pages, but you still wanted to meet all the evaluation criteria? So do you have any suggestions, Leonie, on condensing something that's quite detailed into something? Do you have any strategies that you always implement?
Well, what I would do there is maybe have a matrix at the front. So I'd use one page for a matrix and list all their requirements and the deliverables, and then create a structure that is clearly reflective of all those requirements, and then respond to that, using all the information that you've got. And then AI can be great at reducing stuff down, but I wouldn't reduce it all at once. I'd reduce it chunk by chunk, so that you're clear about what's been taken out. Like, you do need to use your judgment when it's condensing stuff, that it doesn't condense out the really good stuff. That's where the human is going to always be really important. But AI can be very helpful to reduce down. But having said that, those editing sort of exercises were really where I learned to be a great writer. So I know the temptation is often there to use AI all the time to do tasks like that. But I would say to you, like, every so often, try and do it yourself, because that is where I learned to be a great writer, and it's where I really learned to understand language, you know, editing to a word count or a page count. So let's definitely not lose the great editing skills. Like, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater just because we're in a rush.
And do you think that's a possibility? Do you think that do you see that happening from your perspective? Yeah.
Well, I'm not seeing it happening. I think it could happen if we think about the things that AI is doing. If it's doing the lower value stuff, but actually the lower value tasks is where I learned to be a great writer. It's where I learned to really understand language. It's where I learned to get a point across in, you know, 5 sentences or whatever it was I was being asked to do. What does the future bid writer look like if we're not developing those skills? It might be that it doesn't matter. You know, it might be that we're not writing as such anymore. We're just being able to communicate something. And you know, if you've got a good appreciation of what a message looks like on the page, that might be enough. But it might equally not be enough. So I think we just need a bit of awareness over the next couple of years that we don't bin off all the great skills that we've amassed as a cohort.
Yeah, and I agree. Like, from a technology vendor perspective, Visible Thread is we sell products, and one of them is to support AI and creation of content. And it's interesting, Visible Thread, long before AI and the kind of influx of generative AI, had a writing solution that people loved and people used all over the world to score and evaluate the content. And we incorporated AI into that to allow people to prompt and generate content. But the majority of people, and I say it loosely, but the majority of people still love the scoring, the traditional elements of it. And yes, they're excited about the AI pieces and you can generate a first draft, but it's the core ability to grade level, readability, all the core skills of a writer that they're looking for, and those core metrics that is kind of still using. They're still using that, and they still find huge value in that. So I know from our perspective is we hear a lot of noise about bid writing, and that it's like fading away, or you can create a draft in seconds. But in reality, when we're working with our customers, our software allows them to get some efficiencies, pull from old documents, clean up some processes, but the skill set of a writer is still needed. And that's not going away, really. I think over the last year, I think the bubble has burst a little bit, and a lot of people are kind of seeing that, and they're seeing like, oh yeah, the core skill set is still needed. I personally, I don't know if you would agree. Do you feel like the bubble is bursting a little bit there? People are kind of understanding what AI is good for and what it's not.
I think that's a really interesting question. I have not heard that. My own prediction is that people will realize over the next couple of years that the bid writer, or whoever it is that understands language within a bidding context, people will understand their value over the next couple of years. Now, it might be that they've made their bid writers redundant. They have to go and re-recruit. But I do feel that it'll come back around. But that's why it's so important for us to really educate the market about what it is that we do, why we do it, the value that we bring, the benefits that we bring. Yeah, we're not just talking for the sake of it.
Absolutely. Leonie, I love that. I thought that was an excellent presentation, and I can see from the reactions and the amount of questions and engagement on the polls, etc. And there's a lot of love hearts going around in the chat, which is always good. So I'll leave it to you, Leonie, if you have any final words or statements you'd like to say, or how people can connect with you. You're more than welcome.
Sure. All right. Well, that's where you can find me. I'm on LinkedIn. That's probably the easiest place to find me for today. If you're interested in understanding more about what we're doing as Bid Writing Focus Group, also get in touch. Thank you for all being here today. Thank you for tolerating my polls and for engaging so thoughtfully. Like I say, if today has really resonated with you, please do connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to keep the conversation going. I think what we're talking about is really important. But the bid writing role, I don't think is fading. I think it's actually going to flourish. We have to make sure that we're leading that conversation and we're the ones leading the evolution. So that's what I'll leave you with for today. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Leonie. You're fabulous. I look forward to the next time you're on a visible thread presentation. That was fabulous.
Was it all right? Or was I blethering on?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. It was brilliant. Just before I move you to the next session, the next session that has just started, it's with John Williams from Strategic Proposals. Strategic Proposals are a global proposal agency. If those in the UK might be aware of John Williams, he's spoken on a lot of APMP presentations in the past. That topic is all about benchmarking proposals, benchmarking your team. There was a question in the poll there about how to evaluate and how to measure the performance of your team. I think that question will be answered in that presentation as well. So you're going to be redirected automatically over there. I hope you enjoyed this presentation and enjoy the rest of the sessions at Optimize. And thank you. Thank you, Leonie, once again.
Oh, you're very welcome. See you later.